Everyone, when about a year or two ago, a little over a year and a half ago, I should say a little over a year and a half ago, when Marvel announced that in 2018 and 19, well, mostly starting in 2000, oh, sorry about that, just adjusting the mic there. When they announced that in 2018 we were getting the third Avengers movie, but this time the third Avengers movie would be in two parts because it's going to be the Infinity War movie. A lot of us lost our shit. Sorry for the language, but a lot of us lost our shit. But we didn't really know really too much about it. I mean, we knew we were going to get all the characters we had seen in the MCU so far. We were going to get the Avengers, Iron Man, Captain America, War Machine, possibly War Machine, I should say, Winter Soldier, Hulk, Black Widow, Ant-Man, Wasp, you know, Thor, Black Falcon, okay, I mean Falcon, if you will, um, the Guardians of the Galaxy. We knew we were going to get them. We pretty much knew that. And now with the announcement of, as you can plainly see here, with the announcement that a lot that we're also going to get Black Panther in there, we're going to get Doctor Strange, we're going to get Captain Marvel, the Carol Danvers Captain Marvel. We pretty much got excited. We pretty much got excited. And then when we found out, when we heard about the deal that Sony and Marvel had made to get Spider-Man involved as well, because you can't do an Infinity War adaptation or build towards an Infinity War adaptation without Spider-Man. So we pretty much got we pretty much again lost our shit. Sorry for the language. Uh, when we heard about that. So, and even now with the news that the director of Creed, the Rocky spinoff, is going to be doing the same for Black Panther. I mean, what more can you ask for? But then the news came, and a lot of people are kind of mixed about this. I mean, some are happy, they're losing the you know what over it. But some people are kind of mixed about it because they're unsure how this is going to work. Now, the director for both Avengers movies and the director for both Avengers movies and several of the other MCU movies, Josh Weldon stepped down. He's not doing it anymore. Now, the Russo brothers have took over, and they made the announcement that Infinity War is going to involve 67 characters. I'm not joking. In case you haven't heard, and I'm pretty sure you have, or you've been living under a rock, they've announced that Infinity War is going to have 67 characters. 67. That's not counting Iron Man. That's not just counting Iron Man, Black Widow, Hulk, Hawkeye, I forgot to mention him, Thor, Captain America, Scarlet Witch, War Machine, Falcon, Ant-Man. And that's 10 right off my fingertips. And then you got Wasp. Then you got Star-Lord. Then you got the Guardians of the Galaxy. And that's 11 right there. Then you got as well as you got the Winter Soldier. So that makes 12. So then you got Star-Lord, which makes 13. Gamora, 14. Brackus, I think that's his name. The guy that Batista plays. That makes 15. Rocket Raccoon, Groot, that makes 16, 17. You know, you got these characters. And then you add in Spider-Man, that's 18. You add in Black Panther, that's 20. Captain Marvel, 21. Doctor Strange, 22. And the list just goes on and on. Not just the that's as much as I know of right now. You got the possibility of all members of the Inhumans. So that's like another what, six characters? Six, seven, six, five, six characters? You're looking at like what, 28? And then when you possibly add in the inclusion of, you know, the Agents of Shield and how many characters they're going to have besides the Inhumans. Like you're gonna have maybe you're gonna probably have some of the main characters off Agents of Shield showing up in that. So that's like another 2, 3, 4. So that's like 32 right there. Then you got Agent Carter and some of the characters there. And if one of the Infinity Stones involves time, who's to say that's not gonna be the reason she gets involved? And you've got her and several of the characters there, so you're looking at another 3 or 4, so that's 36. Or 38, 34, about 36 to 38 more characters. So that equals up to 36, 38 more characters. Or not more characters, but 36 to 38 characters altogether so far. Then you're looking at Jessica Jones, aka Jessica Jones, on Netflix. You got her character, and who knows other characters are going to be involved, like maybe Ghost Rider perhaps, because he'll probably be in there. You got her and several of the characters involved with her, so that's like another 2, 3, 4 characters. That's like 38 to 42 characters total. You've got Daredevil, and he's going to have you got Daredevil, Netflix's Daredevil, characters involved in that, like the Punisher and some of the characters from the Daredevil comic, maybe even Ghost Rider. That's another maybe 5, 6 characters, or 6 characters. You're looking at 42 to 48 characters total right there. Then you got the Luke Cage series coming. And you got that character, possibly with Iron Fist, and who knows who else. So you probably got like another 2 to 4 characters there. Yeah, like I said, you got another 2 to 4 characters there, which equals up to what, about 46 to 52. So if you go basically from the 46 to 52, from a 46 standpoint, you still need 21 more characters. From the 52, you still need 15 more characters. And how is that going to work? How is that going to be? How are they going to involve this? Well, the way I look at it, you know, you've got about, from what I've just numbered off, about 52, I mean, possibly the most likely number right about now, depending on any other characters that get involved in any of these other franchises. You know, like I said, you got Black Panther, I forgot, you know, and maybe whatever characters come out of that movie, as well as Captain Marvel. So you could hike that number of 52 maybe up to 60, but then you got 7 more slots or no, not 60, maybe about, if it averages out about 4 and 4, 8, yeah, about 60, or 3 and 3, 6, about 58 to 60. So let's say around 60, depending on what characters come out of that. Then you got to realize, okay, who else do you have involved? Well, you'll probably have Loki, so that's 61, so you got 6 more slots. You got 6 more slots, so that's going to depend on the Guardians of the Galaxy, maybe. Who do they introduce next? Do they get Nova involved? If Nova is involved, that's like 62. Then who else? Do you get White Tiger? Do you get her involved? Because, you know, she's an Ultimate Spider-Man in the cartoon. Do you get her involved? That's like what? 60, what is that now? What, 63 characters? So now you need about 4 more slots. So who do you get for those 4 more slots? Well, the only other franchise I know of that you could do that is Fantastic Four. But guess what? Fox isn't letting Fantastic Four go. You know, it's like if Marvel, I mean, yeah, Every time I mean, here's the thing. When the movies begin, yeah, you have the production of 20th Century Fox comes up first, and then it says Marvel. So it pretty much acknowledges, yeah, it's a Marvel property, but we own the rights to the film. We own the rights to use the characters in the movie. So here's the thing. Who else do you involve? Well, if you're doing the Spider-Man reboot, and like I said, you got White Tiger possibly in that, maybe, maybe not. Who else? Black Cat. There's like what, 64, so you need three more characters. Who else do you get? Well, we haven't seen She-Hulk yet. Bring her in because she's part of the story. It's like, okay, well, you need two more characters. So if you got She-Hulk now in there, who else do you get? Who else can you get? I'm looking at one of my posters right now. I mean, who else can you get besides everyone I've named off? Who else can you get? Let's see. I'm looking at it right now. It's like, who else can you get? What, can you get Doom in there and he's going to fight with them? I don't know. That might equal you down to one character, but I don't think that's going to happen. Iron Fist, like I said, I already mentioned him. Elektra, okay, there's one character there. I forgot to mention her. She's part of Daredevil. She's coming in. So now you just need one more slot. Who else do you get? And that opens the door. Like, okay, out of all of those characters, you got one more slot to do 67 characters. Who else is there? Who else is there that isn't tied down to another studio? Well, I'm looking, and I've got figures here as well. The only other character I could think, and she might be brought in, I believe she might be brought in during the Luke Cage series, even though she's a Spider-Man related character, or she debuted in the Spider-Man comics. I think the only other character to really round it out is going to be Misty Knight. That's who I believe. So that would be your 67 characters. Now, unless they involve Thor's love interest from both his films and his third film into the fray, or maybe his Olympus love interest or his Olympus comrade, whatever her name is again. I got to look at that. So it's up to those. It's either one of those three ladies. They will round out that 67. Now, I know some of you might say, well, Brian, that's not probably, well, I know some of you might say, well, Brian, you probably have a point on some, you're probably correct about some of them, but not all of them. And I'm not saying I'm correct. I'm just guessing off the top of my head, thinking about what characters are not, nailed down or not tied down by film contracts or licensing film contracts to studios like 20th Century Fox. And to me, those are the only ones I can think of because of the relation to the characters, to the main characters, or the connection to the main characters involved. That's what I see. Like I said, I'm only naming them off because of the connection to the main characters. There's somehow a connection to those main characters and franchises. That's the only reason. I'm not saying I'm correct about them, but Misty Knight, Thor's love interest and his two love interests, the one from Earth and the one from Olympus, or whatever, or the realm of the gods, if you will. To me, those are the only three other logical choices to round out that 67. It really is. But then the question a lot of people have is, how are they going to work these 67 characters in? Even if they are the ones I've mentioned, or some of them are the characters I've mentioned, and some of them are different, and maybe ones we wouldn't expect. Who else? Who else could there be? Who else could we get? Well, not get, but who else could there be? And basically, how in the world? Excuse me for a second. Sorry about that. But again, it's like the question is, how in the world are you going to be able to focus on these 67 characters? Like I say, some of them are likely because of the connection to the other characters. Like I know She-Hulk's got to be a likely choice. Either she appears in Daredevil or she appears, for the first time ever in Avengers: Infinity War because of a connection to Hulk. But to me, how are the Russo brothers going to focus on these 67 characters? The ones that I've mentioned because of the connection, and possibly ones that may be surprising if not the ones that I've mentioned. And that's going to be the big challenge. How are you going to focus on them? And excuse me, I believe the only reason these characters are going to be brought in, depending on if they're the ones I've mentioned, to be along with the ones that are already guaranteed to be there, or like I said, that are guaranteed to be there, or maybe ones we wouldn't expect. The question is, how are you going to focus on them? And my thought is, this is my thought, and I'm sure a lot of people are looking at this as well. My thought is they're just going to be like small parts. It's like we won't really see them until the epic battle, to the epic showdown with Thanos. That's when we're going to see them. That's how it was done in the comic books. That's how I think it's going to happen, and that's how I think, if not believe, it's going to happen in the movie. That we're going to have all of them included towards the end with the big confrontation against Thanos and whoever else they throw in there as a villain. Now I know some of you are thinking, well, they might try, they could focus. Yeah, but here's the problem. You don't want to make possibly the biggest movie that you've been building towards, the biggest event, comic book movie event that you've been building towards for the past, what will be decade, 11 years, for the past decade and 12 months. You don't want to build it up into a clusterfuck. Again, I apologize for my language. But you don't want to build it up to such a huge clusterfuck that it gets confusing, and that the hype you've been building towards this epic movie ends up falling short and basically degrades everything you've done. I mean, by the time this movie comes out, people like me, and I still believe Blu-rays will be around and so will DVDs, if not digital copies, people like me will have every single copy of every MCU movie at that time. We will have, I mean, I'm up to date up to Ant-Man right now. So by that time, I will have Captain America. I will have Doctor Strange. I will have Black Panther. I'll have Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I'll have Captain Marvel by the time we get to that point. But the thing is, you don't want to build it up to the point that it's a complete clusterfuck. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to build it up to the point that everything you've built to this point, along with all the ups and downs that you've had, depending on the reaction of certain movies and how people felt about them, you don't want that to all be for naught. You don't want that to be for naught. You want that to still mean something 12 years later when you wrap this up and head into phase 4. You don't want that to be for naught. I sure wouldn't. I sure as heck would not want that to be for naught. I would want that to mean something. I would want that to mean something for me and for everybody else that has supported the MCU and its expansion into things like television. I would want a reasoning. I would want to make it. I basically would want it to mean something. I want it to basically show that everything that Marvel Studios have done through the association with Paramount and through the buyout with Disney, I would want it to all mean something in the end. And that's why I know a lot of people are afraid that the 67 characters could be nothing more than a clusterfuck if they're not careful. And that is a fact. It can be. But I believe, in my personal opinion, that it's not going to be as bad as you think. Yes, they say it's going to be 67 characters, but they're not saying exactly when those characters are going to show up or how they're going to be used. Some of them may not even show up until part two, for all we know. So, with that said, do I think 67 characters is a lot? Absolutely, I do. But if done correctly, but even though I do believe it's a lot, I do believe that if done correctly, it can work. And I think I'm not, and I believe, if not no, I'm not the only one that feels that if done right, where you basically kind of bring them in intervals and not just clusterfuck it all together like DC apparently wants to do with the multi universe or multiverse. I think that's what they're calling it. You know, you want to make sure you take your time. You want to bring them in intervals, and I believe throughout part one that's what's going to happen, and I believe in part two it's going to be the same way towards getting to that big conclusion, that big confrontation. So part one's going to basically bring in those characters that if they have not arrived, have not debuted either through the Netflix series and ABC series, will or even the other MCU movies will make the debut in this movie, in this one. And I think if done right by bringing them in during intervals, when it's not right in your face, everybody's cluttered together right then and there, it should work properly. And I think doing it that way, taking the steps to do that, bringing them in intervals in that movie in part one to build towards a confrontation in part two is going to really help it out. So, again, though, do I think it's a little too much? Absolutely. Do I think they should have scaled it down? Absolutely. But I see what the Russo brothers are trying to do, and I see what Marvel Studios is trying to do. They know that fans who have longtime fans who have read the original release of Infinity War as individual issues spawned across several different titles, and who have also read the graphic novels as well, the compilations, all the stories put together as one. Marvel Studios, as well as the Russo brothers, they realize there are going to be those diehard fans that are going to expect those many characters because that's how it was in the original comic book story. So, again, that's why they're doing this. Yes, they should scale it down, but they're doing it because they know fans are going to expect that, and they at least want Infinity War, like a lot of the movies have tried at times, to stay true to what it's adapting to its source material. So again, do I think it's a little too much? Absolutely. Do I think it can be done correctly? Absolutely. And again, like I said, the way it can be done correctly is slowly do it in intervals. Don't scatter them all together at once. Do it slowly, bring them in. When you need to bring them in, have them ready so that when that big confrontation happens with Thanos and whoever else at the end of part one into part two, they'll be ready and we won't be like already sick of them over those 2 hours we're sitting in the theaters watching the movie. So again, though, you know, is it a little too much? Is it too many characters? Yes, but like I said, if done right, I think it'd be good. I think it can be really good, and it could be pretty awesome. I think it'd be, I think it'd be, I think it'll make it more epic and more worth wanting to see. Maybe not just once, but a couple of times in theaters. So do so, but again, like I said, if done right, and I think being done right should be the intervals. In other words, bring them in when you need to bring them in, and then just have them ready so that when the confrontation happens at the end of part one into part two, there you go. So That's all I'm going to say on it, folks. Those are my thoughts on the announcement of 67 characters for Avengers Infinity War, for the Avengers Infinity War two-part movie. Let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like. And let me know if you think I'm correct in some of the characters showing up. And I will talk to y'all later.